Today we're going to talk about self-hatred. More specifically, we're going to talk about all or nothing thinking, black and white thinking, or you can call it polarized thinking. Obviously, this is a major thinking error. Now, this type of thinking error, it's what's called bidirectional, meaning that all or nothing thinking is correlated and it's a symptom of self-hatred and emotional dysregulation. However, this type of thinking can also cause self-hatred and emotional dysregulation. So it works in both directions. And this type of thinking causes incredible damage to an individual, but it also causes damage to all the people around them. This is why we need to make sure that people are aware of what this type of thinking is, and we need to be able to correct it and to treat it. So let's take it from the top. I want to compare all or nothing thinking, which would be, say, black and white thinking, to shades of gray thinking. All or nothing thinkers tend to make assumptions. They don't look at all the information, and they don't consider alternatives. So the first thought in their head, they just go with it without any evidence. If you're a shades of gray thinker, you tend to look more at the evidence, maybe some data, you try to be a little bit more reasonable, and then you can objectively consider multiple points of views and perspectives. All or nothing thinkers, they tend to think and feel in extremes, whether they have all the information or not. What does this do? It causes insecurity, it causes instability, but not just in themselves. It causes it in everybody around them, and it creates very much of a roller coaster in their life. This could be obviously within themselves, it could be with their romantic partners, it could be with their family, friends, and of course at work. So you could see how damaging this could be. A shades of gray thinker has a measured approach to different situations. What they can do is, if there's a very negative situation, they can look for the silver lining. So it's not all negative, so they typically do not fall into depression and anxiety, and they do not have as much emotional dysregulation. Interestingly, what a more nuanced thinker, like a shades of gray thinker, can do, in a very positive situation, they can take an honest look to see where the weaknesses are. Now, that doesn't seem to make too much sense to some people, but it actually does. Let's say you're in business and you're doing well today, and you might be doing well in the next year. But let's say you want to do this for a very long time. What you want to do is to be able to see where the weaknesses might be. You want to be able to see in the future, to be able to give your clients a better service. And you want to see where the trends are going so you can be there before they start. I'll give you an example. Back in the 80s with personal training, it was all about bodybuilding. Everybody just wanted to lift weights. And that was great. If that's what you were into, that was awesome. And if you were a trainer, you did well. But as time went on, people still wanted to work out, but they were getting older. And they were more conscious about longevity and not being injured. So then it would be much more advantageous for a trainer looking into the future not to be left behind by only doing bodybuilding. Now, maybe you wanted to be good at yoga, maybe Pilates, some type of stretching, some type of aerobic type of activity. Maybe you increase your knowledge in terms of nutrition because now you were looking for longevity. So again, that's how you would follow the trend lines. If you were only stuck in, I only train bodybuilders, you're probably not going to do well over a long period of time. So that's an example of that. If you're a shades of gray thinker, you have a measured approach to different situations. What does that do? It creates stability, security, resilience, a good, healthy outlook on life. And if you want it all in one word, you could say a person like that becomes more adaptable. So let's look at some treatments. Number one, most important, if you don't know that there's a problem, you can't fix it. So we need to know awareness. What does all or nothing thinking sound like? We need to know this when you hear it in somebody else, And you need to know it inside before it leaves your mouth and starts infecting the way you think. Because again, all or nothing thinking, it may create anxiety, depression, and it's going to destroy your relationships, and it's going to destroy how you connect to the world. So awareness, very important. Consider not saying these phrases. Notice what I said. I said consider not. I didn't say never say these, because the term never is all or nothing thinking, because sometimes it might be appropriate. So let's start. Consider not saying these phrases. I hate. This is the worst. I never. You never. I always. You always. Everything is or everything isn't. Everyone is or everyone isn't. All people. No one does anything for me. It's not true, right? We can't say no one. We can't say this proves. Try not to say this proves. Even if when we're looking at empirical evidence, if you scroll all the way down to the conclusion, empirical evidence will never say this proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is true. What it will say is the evidence suggests, the evidence indicates something in that range. It's never going to say that this proves and this is the way it is. It won't do that. So again, we don't want to get into all or nothing or black and white or polarized thinking. We want to be able to speak down the middle. Number 2 in our treatment plan, cognitive continuum. So we have the best and we have the worst. Somewhere in the middle is the truth. And talking in the middle will also keep you emotionally regulated rather than dysregulated. Let me try to give you an example. It'll sound like a crazy example, but it's me. So it's hard for me to make up examples for other people. So I'm going to use myself. A long time ago, I had a bodybuilding contest coming up in about 8 weeks. So that's a fairly short amount of time. So just 8 weeks to go. And I ended up tearing one of my biceps. So there we have the scene, the issue, the situation. Now, the best and the worst. We can't make the best out of it. It's not like that's a good thing to happen. That would be an absolute lie. It would be delusional to say that tearing a major muscle is good for anybody's health or to win a bodybuilding contest. Makes no sense. So you wouldn't say that. What about the worst part? I can't do the show. I'll never be a good bodybuilder again. I have no chance. I quit. That's the worst. So somewhere in the middle is the right answer if you want to be a stable human being. So this is how I thought of it. Actually, I had some help. I told one of my friends, hey, guess what? I finally did it. I tore my bicep, and it happens to a lot of people. His thought was, because he thinks like I do, it's the same thing. He said, okay, I'm sure it hurts. And when it's all done, you probably won't be as strong as you were before. However, because the bicep was torn, it's shorter. So when you flex the muscle, it's going to peak higher. And the judges are actually going to notice it more. And you'll probably end up doing better in the show anyway. And that's the actual truth. So I trained through that, and I did not get surgery to reattach it. It did its thing on its own. I ended up going into the show. And as long as the bruising went away, which it did, then I ended up looking better and I won. So that's how you do it. Stay away from all or nothing thinking. As another example, somebody will say, I hate my boss. Well, what does that do? Okay, it's going to make you a horrible worker. You'll probably have that attitude at work. No one's going to want to be around you. Probably get fired. And then you keep meditating on, I hate my boss. So again, somewhere in the middle, you hate your boss. Why? Is he or she's the worst person in the world? Somewhere between Hitler and Mother Teresa is the middle, that you can actually speak in a nuanced way that's not childish. So off the top of my head, this is something I might think about. I'm really upset with my boss right now. But my boss is under a lot of pressure, and I could definitely understand why my boss criticized me. Simple. Does that create a lot of tension in the person now? No. Does it make them into a bad worker? Probably not. So again, that'll save your job. Again, stay away from all or nothing thinking. Let's move on to the third part and my favorite. It's called specific positive, specific negative. That's more of the clinical psychological term. I don't really like that one as much. I like to call it the seesaw or the scale of justice, because I'm trying to be a level-headed human being. And if you're working on this, this is one of the things you need to do. Specific negative, specific positive. Let's see if we can work on this one. Again, I'll use some examples for myself to see if anybody out there can relate, and you can use it to your own life. Sometimes, when I'm in a bad mood and I'm not feeling right, I might say something such as, I hate my job. And of course, that makes me feel in a worse mood. Unproductive. But is it true? So when we're really looking at this and we're using this specific negative, specific positive, what I should do is not say, I hate my job. That's too simplistic. And it's immature, quite frankly, to do that. So I would change it to this. I feel great frustration and annoyance as a trainer and as a therapist when I work with people that have no inclination to try to get any better. However, I am most proud, and some of the best moments I've had in my life is working with people who want to do better, and I've been able to help them do better. And so I love my job as well. See how it's a nuance? Again, it's not I hate it or I love it. It's realistic down the middle. Let's talk about this in terms of, I could do this with bodybuilding would be a good example for me. Specific negative, specific positive. Sometimes, especially as I get older, I can get really annoyed and go, I hate bodybuilding. Like, I just think it's the worst thing ever. But that's not right. I don't feel that way. I feel that way sometimes when I'm feeling a little down. But again, a little self-hatred going on there maybe. So we want to see a nuanced look. And here's a nuanced look. The activity of bodybuilding has been one of the most fruitful, amazing things throughout my life. I can't think of anything that is better physically, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually than walking into a gym, having a membership, going into a gym, and training and working on your body and mind. There's nothing better in this world. I am absolutely convinced of it. That's the specific positive. Here's the specific negative. Unfortunately, over the years, bodybuilding has become a cesspool of people using a lot of drugs. There's a lot of prostitution. And with social media now, most people are not competing for the right reasons, for the artisticness of it. They're not trying to improve to be a better person. They're not trying to reach their full potential. They're filming themselves doing things so they can get more Instagram likes or followers or fame. And now I go to gyms and I see pictures on the walls of people who are not champions. They haven't won anything, but they have a lot of followers. And that hurts my heart deeply to see where the most beautiful of all sports is gone. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to name any names, but there was a guy this week who died from too much drugs. Only 29 years old, has a wife, has a kid. And most of the bodybuilding people that I saw were saying, he's such a great guy. He was so honest about his drug use. They looked up to him. Why? Because he had a lot of followers. But let me tell you this, he never won any bodybuilding shows though, but he's more famous than I'll ever be. And I'm not looking for fame, but I'm just saying, if you're gonna be in a show, there's a reason why people come in first, second, third, fourth. Because first is better than fourth. First means you're better than fourth, and so on and so forth. But nowadays, you film yourself taking a bunch of drugs, people like you get famous, and now you're Mr. Bodybuilder. So there you go. Specific negative, I hate bodybuilding for that reason, but I also love bodybuilding for the other reason. Again, nuanced answer, and it creates a nice balance, so I'm not always angry about it. And I can have good conversations, and hopefully this will help you in your life with the things that you need to talk about. Let me conclude. Speaking in this manner, being able to weigh things out, positive and negative, a cognitive continuum, and being aware when you're saying that all people are, like we all know that angry, bitter person, right? That says, all women are this, all men are this. You're cutting yourself off from a beautiful world when you do that. We need to open it up. Be honest on both sides. Start to train your brain to see multiple perspectives and see an actual truth. It says in the Bible, the truth will set you free. This is true. I believe that. In conclusion, if you practice these steps that I've shown you, you will decrease your emotional dysregulation. Your stability, it might decrease the instability and the emotional dysregulation of everybody around you. Number 3, people will feel more secure and they will feel more safe around you. They will be more likely to want to have a relationship with you. They'll trust you. Number 4, consciously or unconsciously, people may see you as being more intelligent because you will have the ability to verbalize different perspectives and you will have a nuanced approach to life. And number 5, there's a good chance that you're going to experience much less anxiety, depression, and self-hatred. I hope this show is valuable to you. My name is Joe Peroni. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.